Hello, everyone, again, and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and the first webinar of your orientation, Countdown to VISTA Service. Your VISTA service is a year-long commitment, and this period before you start service is meant to provide you with the opportunity to learn about VISTA service and your benefits, as well as to ensure that this is the right choice for you. My name is Khadija Carr, and I'm joined by my colleague Eric Powell. We will be your hosts today from VISTA headquarters in Washington, D.C. You'll also see our AmeriCorps VISTA colleagues, Charles Huang and Brittany Madison, as well as our partners at LSI in the chat and Q&A.
I want to add my welcome as well, and thank you for joining AmeriCorps VISTA. I truly hope this year will be a wonderful and challenging experience for you, and I look forward to helping you get started. So here's the agenda for today's webinar. We'll start out with brief introductions and an overview of the VISTA program. Then we'll jump into some of the important details of your orientation, including major tasks to complete when you arrive at your project site next week. We'll take a close look at some of the benefits that VISTA members receive and address questions on those benefits. We'll wrap up today with a quick reminder of useful resources for you and ask for your feedback on our presentation. Here are our objectives for today's presentation as we go through our agenda items. First and foremost, we have asked you to log on today to give our VISTA staff a chance to connect with you and to help you ease into your service year. We also know that this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new VISTA members and start to build connections with colleagues across the country. We will take time today to reinforce some of the very important detail of your VISTA service. We know that there is a lot of information coming at you from the VISTA office and possibly from your project site, and we will highlight several critical pieces of information today. Finally, we want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where to find more answers to questions that you may have. With all of us online today for such a short time, we may not be able to answer all of your individual questions, so we will work hard to do that in the question and answer session. So we do want to leave you today with a good sense of where to keep finding answers once we log off. Khadija, want to kick us off?
I sure do, Eric. Thanks so much. It is my pleasure to officially welcome you to AmeriCorps VISTA. Today you will join a national service program with a very rich history. There are about 140 members beginning service with you this month, and currently there's just under 5,000 VISTA members that are serving in both rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several U.S. territories and tribal nations. Volunteers in Service to America, or VISTA, have been fighting poverty and building communities for more than 50 years. And our strength really comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of our members, just like you. So let me thank you for stepping up to share your skills and your passion to serve our communities. It really is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the VISTA program. In the chat, if you will, please take a moment to type your answer to this question. We do have a lot of folks on the webinar today, so the chat will be going pretty quickly, but we hope that you'll answer the question, in what city or town will you serve? Let's see where folks are.
See quite a few. Boston.
Yeah, Salt Lake City, Birmingham, Flagstaff, Buffalo, Tennessee.
Texas.
Nice. West Virginia. I'm seeing a whole variety of different places, and we know that based on your VISTA applications and your service placements that we have VISTAs that are starting out this month in many different communities and in many different types of VISTA projects as well, and we can see that represented in the chat. Now let's get a sense of just how many folks have or will relocate to serve in VISTA. In just a second, you should be seeing a poll. It'll open up, and you can indicate yes or no. And this will be a pretty quick poll just to get a little bit of information about you. So did you relocate in order to serve in VISTA? We'll just leave that poll up for a quick moment. Eric, what do you think? Do you think most folks relocated to serve, or do you think that a lot of folks are staying put in their hometown?
For some reason with this group, I just have a sneaking suspicion that a little bit over 50%, I'm going to say 57% relocated. I don't know why. What about you?
I'm loving your guess. I think it seems like the tagline is go where you're needed, and sometimes, you want to go explore another city and really build some roots there. Thank you all so much for responding to that. Sending you all very, very good wishes for a very safe and easy move. And for those of you who are staying put, we're glad to have you as well. Together, you are joining thousands of VISTA colleagues all around the country to fight poverty. And we all do this by providing really critical resources to local service organizations or government agencies. And the VISTA program mission is to strengthen organizations that fight poverty. And we do that by deploying VISTA members to serve in local community agencies. So the role of the VISTA member is really to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance the efficiency and build capacity by raising money, developing systems, recruiting volunteers, and creating long-lasting change. So by serving at a sponsoring organization, you are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening organizations. We do love a good chat question, so here's another one for you. What is your project supervisor's name? Take a couple of minutes to just write down or jot down that name of that supervisor. So these responses are coming in a bit more slowly than those relocation sites, but I do see John, DeForest, Erica, Candy, Paul, Jesse, tons of supervisor names coming in there. This is great, great. So I do also see that there are a few folks who don't quite know who their supervisor is, and that is okay. It is a bit early, right? We are still at this early stage of the service year, and there may still be a lot of new information for you to gather, including details about your site and your supervisor, so that's totally understandable. On the screen, you should be seeing the AmeriCorps VISTA structure. This is a graphic presentation of the program model, and it includes key partners that really make your VISTA service possible. So in this graphic, you can see that the VISTA program involves several different layers that help support the work that the VISTA projects are doing, as well as supporting you and your fellow VISTAs. So VISTA headquarters is located at the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS, and that's where the VISTA training unit is located in Washington, D.C. CNCS also has state or regional offices, and those are located all across the country. And in those offices, CNCS staff collect proposals from local agencies to engage VISTA members. They approve the VISTA projects and approve the placement of those VISTA members into those projects. So your state or regional office is really a key resource for you, and you can reach them by email using the state abbreviation at cns.gov. For example, Texas state office would be tx@cns.gov. And in the graphic, you can see that the sponsor organizations are listed along with your specific supervisor. So your sponsor or your supervisor, those will be the day-to-day support. systems, right? Those provide all of the details about your project work specifically. And at our VISTA headquarters, as mentioned, you will be supported by Eric and myself as members of the VISTA training unit, as well as the VISTA member support unit, or VMSU. The VMSU is another very helpful resource for questions regarding your benefits. And to help make sure, or make sense rather, of all of these organizations, there is an AmeriCorps VISTA resources and contacts document. It's available and can be found on the Starting VISTA page. So you can find it in the link that'll be posted very shortly in the chat. All right, let's see some results, right? What is this program made of? Within that organizational structure, VISTA members, project staff, sponsors, and CNCS staff work together to accomplish these types of results. And in the last year, VISTA's raised over $194 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. VISTA's recruited, trained, and assigned over 700,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 7.5 million hours. VISTA members also made it possible for their sponsors to serve 2.4 million children living in poverty. And they did that in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security programs as well. Programs supported by VISTA members were able to engage 14,000 veterans and military families in service, and in a single year, over 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofit and public agencies. This is just a snapshot of 1 year of VISTA service, so we're super proud to support this work around the country, and again, thank you so much for joining this legacy. So far today, we've talked through the VISTA program mission and the program model. We also talked briefly about program results and roles that VISTA members play in local communities. Next, we're going to take a look and focus on your specific service. As a VISTA member, you're making a 1 year or 365-day full-time commitment to strengthen and support your community. And you'll strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs. You'll work on projects with staff and volunteers to build capacity in your project and your community. And central to your VISTA service is an important document. It's called the VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD. The VISTA Assignment Description provides the overarching goals of your project. It's what explains the objectives that you're working towards during your service year. And it lays out the specific activities that you'll complete in order to accomplish the objectives. So all VISTA members will have a VISTA assignment description, and you can find that VAD in your My AmeriCorps portal at my.americorps.gov. It's really important to know that your VAD was likely written before you were recruited or selected for your project. So be sure to check in with your supervisor next week and talk about what has developed and what the current needs of your VISTA project are. Because VADs are written so far in advance of the VISTA member's arrival, it can be very common that members and supervisors will update the VAD at the start of the service year. So when we meet next week on Monday's webinar, we're going to go into more detail about capacity building and the unique nature of your VISTA service. So please make sure that you have your VAD by your first day of service. It's going to be an important document.
So now let's move on to the next item on our agenda and talk about the phases of your orientation to the VISTA program. Today's webinar is just one part of a multifaceted orientation that all new VISTA members complete. On the far left of this graphic, you can see the phases of your orientation and some of the major tasks in the block to the right of each phase. This structure is also reflected in the VISTA member orientation checklist that you received via email. You can also find a link to the checklist in the chat now. I do encourage you to print this file or save the checklist right away and keep it close at hand, because you can use it as a record of your progress through each phase of the orientation and as you complete important tasks this week and beyond. The phases of your VISTA orientation include pre-service, which is where you are now, then your first day of your term of service, and then in-service once you're actually serving. It's good to know that orientation to your VISTA service is an ongoing process and involves a number of people. We know that your position will be a complex one, and it takes a bit of time and effort to get you started strong. So let's talk through some of the really important elements of the first two phases of your orientation. As part of your VISTA member orientation, you are required to complete a few courses and tutorials online. The online courses are located on the Starting VISTA Service page of vistacampus.gov and must also be completed before Monday. Please note that the Terms and Conditions course is linked to your my.americorps.gov account, so you can certify your acceptance there. You must accept the Terms and Conditions of Service in order to start service as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. There certainly is a lot to do before Monday, and again, you can keep track of your progress on the coursework and the required forms using the VISTA member orientation checklist.
In addition to the coursework on the VISTA campus, you'll need to complete your onboarding forms, and these include a direct deposit form for your living allowance, federal tax withholding, which is that W-4 form, unpaid compensation information, and your end of service benefit selection. All of these forms are located in my.americorps.gov, and if you haven't completed these already, please plan on doing it right away. We do need these forms to officially enroll you in the VISTA program and process your living allowance as well as your other service benefits. There are a number of benefits available to VISTAs, and if you haven't already, please go through all of the information that's available on the VISTA campus. In just a few minutes, we'll also talk through some of your benefits and highlight the important details. All right, next let's talk about your first day of service, which is Monday, December 9th. You will start your first day at your project site. So those of you who are relocating to serve must be moved into your new places by your first day of service. If you're unable to show up on this date, or if you're unsure where to go, please make sure that you contact your supervisor or your state office immediately and let us know by responding to any of the emails that you received from Chris Hawks. As a VISTA member, you will also be serving in a professional work environment, and you'll want to set yourself up for success. I really suggest that you confirm your plans with your supervisor if you have not been in contact with them for a while. And if you're unsure of maybe the address that you need to report to, that would be a good clarification as well. It would also be a good idea to confirm with your supervisor the time that you're expected to arrive on your first day, the dress code of the organization, if you're driving, maybe the parking situation or any other sort of special considerations like the average time it takes to commute, or if you should bring anything with you like paperwork or identification. Continuing on with your first day of service, you will have your orientation with your project site and with VISTA headquarters. So at your project site, your supervisor may have prepared a formal agenda for you and scheduled meetings or other activities. Day one schedules can vary by project, so please check in with your supervisor about what to expect and what to bring with you on your first day. Also on your first day of service, your supervisor will give you a fingerprint kit and instructions as part of your required VISTA background check process. So please note that we will need to use that specific fingerprint kit that's provided, and you will have 30 days from your first day of service to submit those fingerprints to the VISTA headquarters office. We're going to also go over this in a little bit more detail next week, but we just did want to mention that as part of this orientation. VISTA headquarters will present your second orientation on Monday, and that will be called Launching Your VISTA Service. We'll be back online with you at the same time as this webinar, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And it's similar to this webinar. You will receive an email from VISTA headquarters with participation details, and we'll go a little bit deeper into the VISTA program. We'll talk more about your VISTA assignment description and member benefits as well. In that session, we're going to have, again, some more time for questions and answers, and we really want to make sure that you're in good shape for the first week of service. So on Monday's webinar, we will be taking the time to both answer your questions and, of course, swear you in officially to the VISTA program by administering your oath of service. And in order to submit that oath of service form, you'll need to be able to log onto your My AmeriCorps account after that webinar concludes. So please be sure to have that username and password available in advance of Monday's webinar.
Looking back at our agenda, let's take a look now at a critical piece of the VISTA program, the terms and conditions of your VISTA service. As you know, there's a course on the VISTA campus that you must complete before you can be enrolled as a VISTA member. This course covers the rules of participation in the VISTA program, for example, what is allowable while you are serving as a VISTA member. Since VISTA is a program of the federal government, we are bound by a variety of public laws, federal regulations, and other rules. We want to make sure that you are aware of this from your first day of service and that you feel comfortable in your VISTA role. We hope that many of you have already completed the Terms and Conditions course, and we're going to highlight a few critical pieces of information from that in the next few minutes. If you've already completed the course online, this should be a pretty easy and quick review for you, and hopefully this will help emphasize the content of the course if you have not yet completed it. For this review, we'll work through a few scenarios to see if these are allowable activities for VISTA members. So here's what we'll do. We'll present several scenarios and ask you to indicate yes or no in the chat. You can just type Y or N for each scenario. So here's the first one. I can voice my political opinion using social media where my profile identifies me as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. Per the VISTA terms and conditions, are VISTAs allowed to do this or not? I see a lot of responses in the chat, mostly no, a couple of Ys, some people unsure, but it looks like the vast majority of people are thinking that the answer to this is no. But some people are still unsure.
All right, let's see what that answer is.
The answer is yes. You can have VISTA listed on your social media profile and voice your own personal political opinion as part of your online life. However, keep in mind there's a few restrictions. You cannot represent yourself as a spokesperson for AmeriCorps, VISTA, the Corporation for National and Community Service, or your sponsor. Additionally, you can voice political opinions on your own time, but not while serving at your site or using any of the equipment at your site, including their Wi-Fi network or your office computer. Also, you should not put the CNCS or AmeriCorps VISTA logo as your profile picture when voicing political or other sensitive opinions on social media. When in doubt, it's always best to keep your VISTA service and political activity completely separate.
All right, let's go with another scenario. I can demonstrate in a political rally. Per the VISTA terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? Indicate Y or N in the chat. Seeing some Ys. Just don't wear your gear, it says. Absolutely, I see. Not sure. I'd say overwhelmingly yes. Yes, but not gear. Prob, yes. Great. So it looks like a nice little mix-up. A few folks adding the apparel as the justification for why. Let's see if you are correct. And the answer is yes. You can demonstrate in a political rally. It doesn't need to be on your own time, as long as you are not identified as a VISTA or perceived to be a VISTA. That perceived to be a VISTA thing is kind of tricky, isn't it, right? It's an important consideration, though, because some of you may be serving in a small town or in a local area where you're not necessarily wearing that VISTA gear that you all mentioned, but people happen to know that you are a VISTA member. So when you're in doubt about a specific activity, it's kind of best to just avoid it initially and consult with your supervisor or your CNCS state or regional office for approval or for some additional clarity on that.
Okay, next up. What do you think about this one? I can ask people to donate money to a partisan political candidate as long as it's on my own time and I'm not identified as a VISTA member. Go ahead and type Y or N in the chat panel to see what your response is. See a couple of Ys, yes, no, yes, Y. This one looks like it might be kind of tricky. Some people are unsure. No money raising, yes. About 50-50, not entirely sure. Good answer. You don't have to know the answer right now, but we'll give it to you in a minute. No money raising. I'm enjoying the creative answers. We are as well. Thank you for that. Well, let's go ahead and see what the answer is and who got this one correct. The answer is no. You cannot raise money on behalf of a partisan political candidate at any time during your VISTA year. And it really doesn't matter if it's off-duty or at home or while not identified as a VISTA member. There's a federal law called the Hatch Act, which prohibits all fundraising for partisan political candidates. You can, however, raise funds in support of an issue on your own time and when you're not identified as a VISTA member.
Now that one was a little tricky. Let's see what folks will say to our last scenario. I can have outside employment and/or earn additional income while I'm serving as a VISTA member. Are you allowed to do this? Yes or no? Let's see what folks are thinking about outside employment. I'm seeing yes, 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 why with permission, as long as it does not interfere. Why? Wow, so tons of great responses here, tons of additional clarity around what makes this allowable and what makes it not. Let's see if you're correct. That answer is yes. You may have outside part-time employment while serving in VISTA, but here are a few key rules that you should keep in mind. Outside employment must not conflict with your project service or your service hours, nor can it conflict with any applicable law or VISTA program requirements or policies. Additionally, under no circumstances may a VISTA member be an employee, a contractor, sponsor, or a project staff person where they're serving, right? Your supervisor also must approve and agree that the outside work you're doing won't interfere with the VISTA project. And if the work does interfere, then the VISTA may be asked to either end employment or to end your VISTA service. Also, only part-time outside employment is allowed, right? We know that VISTA is a full-time commitment, so only part-time outside employment is allowable. And you do have to request approval for outside employment from your project supervisor. This approval has to happen, right? You must receive the approval from your supervisor. And there is a form that you would fill out in order to make that possible. And it can be found on the VISTA campus. Thank you so much for going through those scenarios. While the terms and conditions of your VISTA service contain many rules, we do know that there are 4 issues in particular that raise a lot of questions for new VISTAs. And you can see those on the slide there. Again, we do want you to feel comfortable getting started as a VISTA, so please don't hesitate to reach out to your project supervisor or your state office if you have any more questions about these activities. And again, you'll need to complete the full terms and conditions course and indicate that you've completed it in your My AmeriCorps account.
So we're going to move on and take a closer look at some of the benefits that you'll have as a VISTA member, because we know that excites many people. And again, we want to draw your attention to a few key items today because they are time sensitive, and you'll be able to find a lot more details and information about all of your VISTA member benefits on the VISTA campus website. You're probably familiar with this page by now, hopefully, as this page of the VISTA campus contains an overview of all of your benefits. Some benefits, such as the living allowance, are available to all VISTA members. Other benefits may only apply to some of you, for example, child care assistance. You will want to make sure that you review all of these details carefully. Right now, we're going to walk through some of the benefits that seem to generate the most questions from VISTAs. So let's begin by first talking about your living allowance. From the benefits page on the VISTA campus, you can find a great deal of information on the living allowance benefit. There are additional links at the bottom of this page under the resources section, including tips for how to make the most of the living allowance. You will also find here a living allowance calendar and access to the living allowance rates. The rates of pay do vary across the country, so please check out this link to confirm the rate for the area in which you are serving. So quick question, does anyone know when you will be getting your first payment? If so, please type your answer in the chat. We'll take a look to see if people are pretty close to guessing the date they think their first living allowance payment. See, one person says the 27th, no, 15th. That's actually a good answer, it's unsure. Oh, lots of different dates in December, the 9th, the 27th, the 20th, the 15th, the 23rd. At least the good thing is everyone has the correct month. Not sure, in 2 weeks, beginning of January. Well, let's not belabor the point. We want to make sure we get everyone the correct information. So for those of you who said December 27th, that is the correct answer. Your first living allowance is scheduled to be on December 27th, 2019. VISTA members are paid every 2 weeks on Fridays. And while this information applies to most VISTA members, some of you may be paid directly by your VISTA sponsor. Please ask your VISTA supervisor if you are paid directly by them. This will be a very important detail so that you know the sponsor's payment schedule and process. Federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. So you must determine your own level of responsibility for state taxes. Our suggestion, check in with your state tax office or the comptroller for more details. Also, your VISTA service does not qualify you to receive unemployment compensation after your service is over. This is because, while serving in VISTA, your technical classification is as a National Service Participant and AmeriCorps member. You are not a regular employee of the federal government, nor a regular employee of your project site, so no unemployment insurance is provided. And if you are paid directly by the VISTA program, you can access your living allowance statement in your my.americorps.gov account. If you're paid directly by your VISTA sponsor, you will get pay statements from them. In order to ensure that you receive your living allowance, which we know all of you want to make sure you get the money on time, it is critical to complete the direct deposit information correctly. If either the routing number or the account number you entered for direct deposit is not correct, you will not receive your living allowance payment as scheduled, and please note, you will then have to wait at least 2 more weeks until the next pay period to be paid. So make sure that you understand that you can find the routing number and account number on your checks if you have them, or you can go to your online banking site and look at an account account statement. You can also call your bank just to be sure that you have the correct information. Be sure to double check that the numbers are accurate in your my.americorps.gov account. We want to make sure you get paid. Relating to this, somewhat, is after successfully completing your service, you are eligible for one of two benefits, either the Education Award or the cash stipend. The Education Award can be used to pay any qualified federal student loans or to pay for education at any Title IV institution, which is an institution that accepts federal funds. You have 7 years to use the Education Award, and you cannot transfer it to anyone else. If you select the cash stipend, it is paid out via direct deposit at the very end of your service. The most important detail to know is that if you are unsure which benefit to choose, I strongly suggest that you select the Education Award, because then you have until the end of your 10th month of service to switch to the cash stipend. This is important because once you start service, you are not able to switch from the cash stipend to the Education Award. So when you choose the cash stipend, it is a final decision, but if you select the Education Award, you have some flexibility up until your 10th month of service. More specific details regarding Education Award eligibility, institutions that may match the Education Award, and other things to know can all be found on vistacampus.gov as well as on nationalservice.gov. And for anyone who happens to have student loans, there are several ways that you can postpone repayment of federally backed student loans during your year of service. If you chose the Education Award, you can request forbearance for your federally backed student loans, which means you do not make monthly loan payments during your year of service, and you can request the National Service Trust to pay the accrued interest on your federal loan after you complete your year of service. Just be aware that the interest payment is considered taxable income. Also keep in mind that federal loan forbearance is not guaranteed, and you must initiate the process by submitting a loan forbearance request in your my.americorps.gov account. You will be able to do this approximately 1 week into your service using the My Education Award link, which will appear in your my.americorps.gov account. If you select the end of service cash stipend, or if you have private student loans, you may request loan deferment, which means that you apply directly with your lender, giving the reason of economic hardship. You may be able to have your accrued interest paid by the Department of Education if you have federally subsidized loans that are deferred. And it's also possible that you could have a portion of your Perkins loans forgiven. Loan deferment is also not guaranteed and may not be offered by all lenders, so be sure to check with your lender for specific details and regulations. Remember that neither of these will happen automatically. You must request them through the appropriate process, either in My AmeriCorps portal or with the bank that holds your loan. And one more reminder, for more details on everything that we just covered, go to the Education Award tutorial, which is at nationalservice.gov/resources/edaward. After you have officially started service, you can go to your my.americorps.gov account to submit your loan forbearance request with CNCS. Remember that it is your responsibility to submit the forbearance request and check on its status. At the end of your year, it is also your responsibility to submit any Education Award payment requests as well as interest accrual payment requests.
Next, let's look at the healthcare benefits. The VISTA program offers two different health benefit options. One is for VISTAs who have health coverage like insurance or Medicaid, and the other is for VISTAs who do not have health coverage. So if you are someone who has health coverage or insurance, you are eligible to enroll in the VISTA Healthcare Allowance, which provides reimbursement up to $7,900 for qualifying out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. You can use the healthcare allowance towards out-of-pocket expenses like co-payments for office visits, services, or prescriptions, medications, and medical supplies, and meeting your annual deductible. The allowance will not reimburse you for the cost of buying health insurance or paying monthly premiums. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you do not have any health coverage, you are eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Benefit Plan. And this is really a safety net plan that covers basic health care needs. It covers many basic services with very low copays, but it does also have some limitations, and it does not cover pre-existing conditions. There's no deductible for the health benefit plan either. Both of these options also include limited dental and vision benefits, and both benefit options are free, completely free, so nothing is deducted from your living allowance, no matter which option you choose. Both options will only cover you, the VISTA member. To receive a benefit, you must enroll. There is no automatic enrollment. And in about 2 weeks, you will receive an email from IMG. This is the VISTA Healthcare Plan Administrator, and that email will include instructions on how you enroll in either of the two benefits. VISTAs who want to seek coverage through the health insurance marketplace can take advantage of a special enrollment period of 60 days, and that's from the start and end dates of your VISTA service. You can go to healthcare.gov to shop for plans and see what subsidies you qualify for. And to enroll for these benefits during a special enrollment period, you will need to call the marketplace. Related to living allowance and income is public assistance that may be tied to income or money that you're receiving, which includes that living allowance. If you are already receiving public assistance, such as TANF or LIHEAP, then your VISTA living allowance or any other payments that you receive from the VISTA program should not affect the level of assistance that you receive. Likewise, in applying for new public assistance benefits, your living allowance should not be factored in when determining the level of benefits that you receive. The sole exception to this provision is SNAP, which is formerly called food stamps. If you enroll in SNAP now or at any time during your year of service, your living allowance and other payments will be counted as income in calculating your eligibility and your benefit level. But if you were already receiving SNAP prior to enrolling in the VISTA program, your VISTA benefit will remain unchanged. Public benefits are managed by state or local entities, so CNCS is not in any way involved in how they're administered. You're going to need to speak with a caseworker for additional advice on how and when to apply. In about 2 weeks, you will be able to access, view, and print your service letters from your homepage in your My AmeriCorps account. And when you're applying for any of these public assistance benefits, you will be able to print a letter citing the authority for what's called income disregard. There are some other benefits that are available to VISTA members, and as we previously mentioned, some of these benefits don't apply to everyone. And these include benefits such as relocation and childcare. For those of you who are relocating more than 50 miles from your home of record to your service site, you may qualify for a relocation travel allowance and a one-time settling in allowance. If you're eligible for financial travel support, you should have already received communication from our VISTA Member Support Unit, or VMSU. But if you relocated more than 50 miles to your service site and you've yet to receive an email confirmation from the VISTA Member Support Unit, you can inquire about your eligibility status by emailing the VISTA Member Support Unit at vmsu@cns.gov. And that email is listed on the slide there. In addition, AmeriCorps VISTA offers a child care benefit to members who qualify, In order to qualify for that benefit, you must meet specific requirements such as household income limits, and you must be the parent or the legal guardian of a child under the age of 13, and that child must live with you. For more information and to apply for the child care benefit, visit AmeriCorps.childcare.com. Woo, I know that we just covered a lot of information, so we did want to give you a quick refresher, just a look at our agenda to see where we are. As you have heard, as a VISTA, you have access to a lot of benefits during your year, and we hope that you now have a better idea of how to find out more about those benefits, and also what action steps are needed to take in order to make use of those benefits. Let's just take a few minutes to address some of the questions that have been submitted so far in the Q&A, and we'll pull out some of the ones that really apply to most people and continue to address your individual questions in the Q&A until we wrap up. So again, we're going to be answering questions that are applicable to most VISTAs. We did see quite a number of more personal questions, so we'll try to answer the ones that really apply to most people. Let's see. I did see a question about the first day and saying, what if I'm not able to join the webinar on the first day of service? So the first day of service, it's your first day. The webinar that we will be conducting is mandatory. It is actually the webinar that officiates you as a VISTA member. In that webinar, as we mentioned, we will be administering the oath of service. It's a federal oath, and that oath will be followed with an electronic oath submission by you, and that's actually what we use and will need in order to pay out your living allowance. So without that, you are not officially a VISTA member. So if this applies to more than just that individual who raised that question, you'll want to contact your state office and your supervisor immediately so that we can ensure that there is a workaround or that you can reschedule whatever your other activities are. Let's see. Eric, are you seeing any generalizable questions here?
I see a quick one that looks applicable to everyone, and that was just in regards to the pre-service required work. Will people be notified that everything needs to be completed, or if there's things that are missing? So the general answer is, because of the number of vistas that we have serving, we don't let you know that everything is completed. We only reach out to you if something is missing. But you can still check the status of most, if not all, of your pre-work by going to your my.americorps.gov account, and you can check all of your online forms, and that's where you also go to certify your acceptance of the terms and conditions course.
All right. Let's see. I see another one that's asking, if we choose the education award, are we required to attend school during our service period? For example, if we start our VISTA service in December, do we need to be enrolled in spring semester, January 2020? So this is a great question. The education award is good for 7 years after the date that you've completed your VISTA service. So if you decide not to touch it until year 7, you have that ability. Nothing will happen to it. It'll just remain in the National Service Trust, but you do not have to be attending school during your service period. Good questions.
Great question. Really quick one on healthcare, and I think it's applicable to a lot of people. If people are under 26 and still on their parents, can they still opt in the $7,900 healthcare allowance? Yes, as long as you have your own healthcare card with your name on it, you can, and you have your insurance, even if it's through your parents' plan, you can still, when you get the email from the International Medical Group, you can still select the healthcare allowance to reimburse you up to $7,900 for out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah, I would also say on that note, Eric, um, if you're going to, if you are not yet 26, but you will turn 26 at some point in your VISTA service, then you will then be under what's called a special enrollment period, um, due to it being a qualifying life event, right? So this allows you to enroll in a plan either on the marketplace. You can pick a plan and pay a monthly premium. And in that, you can enroll in the healthcare allowance plan to help pay copays and the coinsurance that we mentioned, or you can enroll in the VISTA Health benefit. This is not complete insurance coverage, it's just a note we want to add there, and it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions, but it's completely free to you, as we mentioned. I would recommend that you notify IMG about a month prior to turning 26, just so that they are aware of the situation and you can kind of get the ball rolling with that process. Let's see. Questions about the outside employment form and where it can be found. So that form is found on the VISTA campus. There's a resources section on the VISTA campus, and in there you will find the outside employment policy, and the form is included as well. It includes links to the PDF that you will then have your supervisor fill out and submit.
And speaking about where to find information, there are a few questions about how do I find my VISTA assignment description. It should be on the home page of your my.americorps.gov account, but if for some reason you cannot find it, make sure to email your supervisor, who should be able to send you a copy right away.
Very good. Let's see. Any additional questions you're seeing, Eric?
We've answered quite a few. Some of them are very individual, which we don't want to answer to everyone because it's not very applicable.
Gotcha. I do see a question. It seems like someone's trying to access the oath. And just do want to remind you all, you will not yet have access to the oath. The electronic oath submission will not appear in your My AmeriCorps portal until after the webinar concludes, which will be next Monday. So once that webinar wraps, about 20 minutes or so afterward, you will be able to access that section. We love a good, eager VISTA, but we're not quite ready for the oath submission yet. Let's see.
One really quick question on Education Award. If you choose the Education Award, can we use it to pay existing student loans? Yes, as long as they are federally backed student loans and your loan lender is a Title IV institution, which most federal institutions are because they accept federal funds, then yes, you can use the Education Award to pay off student loans. Just remember, the Education Award is only available to you after you successfully complete your year of service. So you'd have to wait at least a year from now before you could even use that Education Award towards your student loans.
All right, let's see. I see another question related to the healthcare, and it's saying, I have not been able to create an account with IMG to make my healthcare selection. When I register, it does not recognize my NSPID. How do I make sure that I can use the healthcare benefits? So super great question. You don't yet have access to your health benefit selection options, right? You will receive an email from IMG about a week or two after you have begun service. And it'll give you instructions on how you can sign up for one of the two benefits. Let's see. Another question about relocation and what is the email to reach out to in the event that I feel like I'm eligible for relocation but have not gotten a confirmation. So that would be the VISTA Member Support Unit, V as in Victor, M as in Mary, S as in snake, U as in umbrella, at cns.gov. That is the email address that you will reach out to contact the VISTA member support unit. Let's see. I see a question asking about mileage allowance for folks that are not relocating. There is no subsidy or travel allowance given for folks that are not relocating. The mileage reimbursement is only provided to those members that are relocating 50 miles or more to serve. There are some projects that might have travel benefits like a Metro card or something like that. That is handled on the project-specific level, so you'll want to reach out to your supervisor to find out what additional benefits your sponsoring organization may provide. But again, there is no mileage allowance for folks that are not relocating through the VISTA program.
And I'll just answer this one final question I see that's on vacation days, asking about essentially what is the vacation policy. In the VISTA member handbook, it does outline that VISTA members for their full year of service have 10 years of personal leave, 10 days of personal leave, let me clarify, and 10 days of medical leave. So the medical leave can only be used if you're sick or have to go to a doctor's appointment. The 10 personal days can be used for whatever you want, but you do have to get approval from your supervisor to use your leave. And the VISTA member handbook does outline more details about when you can and cannot use your leave. So just make sure you keep that in mind.
Nice. I do see one other question related to being in school during service. So we talked a bit about having a part-time job while you are a VISTA, but we didn't mention anything about school. So this is a really great question here. And this has similar stipulations as the part-time job. So I would say that this is another thing that you would want to talk with your VISTA supervisor about. It might be hard to manage a full-time VISTA project and be a student, but there are certainly classes you might be able to take or workarounds for it. So I would again encourage you to talk with your VISTA supervisor to ensure that if you are enrolled in classes or school, that it's not going to interfere with your VISTA duties. I think we have time for about one more question. I'm not seeing a ton of things that are generalizable. Let's just answer one more question before moving on. And I do see one here related to assistance with rent. VISTA or CNCS don't provide housing assistance, but there are some project or sponsoring organizations that do. Some sponsors are housing providers and things like that. So you'll want to check in with your supervisor to see if that is a benefit provided by your sponsor, but it is not one that is provided through the VISTA program.
Great.
And with that, I think we can finish out our agenda. Eric?
I think so. Let's go ahead and move on and look to see where we are now. So first, let Khadija and I say thank you very much for taking the time to work through some of your questions. We know there's more coming in, and thanks to Charles and Brittany for assisting us in answering as many as we can. We will also have more time and open question and answers on next Monday's webinar so that we can address more questions at that time. But before we finish, we want to turn our attention to some online resources that you have, reminders for this week, and our webinar closing remarks. So these are the two websites that have figured prominently in today's webinar and in many of the emails that you have received from VISTA. If you have not done so already, please make sure to bookmark these sites or save them in your browser favorites so that you can easily and quickly access them at any time. And don't forget, my.americorps.gov is also known as the My AmeriCorps portal, or sometimes it's just called the portal. This is the website where you applied for your AmeriCorps position, where you complete your direct deposit and other onboarding forms, and where you can access your VISTA assignment description. It's also where, in a few weeks, you'll be able to access your living allowance statement, request some of the benefits we discussed today, and print a letter that verifies your VISTA service. The VISTA campus is located at vistacampus.gov, and this is the website where you complete your onboarding coursework and tutorials, and when you're in service, can access more education and instruction. So take the time to explore the VISTA campus early and often. It's an important resource to help you navigate your year of service, access additional training opportunities, and more. And here's a quick look at the Learning Resources section to give you a sense of the breadth of information that's available to you. You can also locate and reach out to other VISTA members using the VISTA map and the VISTA forums on the VISTA campus. As you're getting settled into your service year, reach out to your VISTA colleagues here.
All right, we have just a few minutes left in our session today, and here's one last reminder about the coursework and the onboarding forms that are due from you this week. And please be sure to use the VISTA member orientation checklist so that you can keep track as you work your way through the list. All right, so finally today we would absolutely love your feedback on our presentation. Tell us what worked well for you. How can we improve this presentation for future VISTA members? Please take a few moments to complete this brief survey. We will use your input right away as we complete preparation for our webinar next week. So we really thank you in advance for your feedback. You should be seeing that link pop up for you. And with that, I do want to revisit our objectives. Today, I do hope that we have started to build some new connections and really kind of put faces to names, and that we helped clarify some of the really complex issues or questions you had about starting your VISTA service. We know this is a really busy time for you and so much information is available. So we hope that today's discussion helped to clarify some of the VISTA requirements and helped you to know where you could go to find that information quickly. Thank you again for joining us today for this Countdown to VISTA Service webinar. And again, from all of us here at VISTA and the Corporation for National and Community Service, thank you so much for joining the VISTA team. We look forward to seeing you again on Monday's webinar called Launching Your VISTA Service. Again, that webinar will be conducted at the same time that this webinar was, at 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. You can now disconnect and you have about 24 minutes back onto your schedules. Thanks so much. You can disconnect at this time.